Before we ask whether there will be a second Red Wedding, we need to understand what the first one actually destroyed. The Freys did not simply ambush Robb Stark. They welcomed the king in the north, his mother, and thousands of northern soldiers to the Twins for Edmure Tully's wedding to Rosalind Frey. Robb accepted bread and salt beneath Walder Frey's roof. The musicians began playing The Rains of Castamere, armed men sealed the hall, and guests who believed themselves protected were butchered by Frey and Bolton men. Rose Bolton killed Robb. Raymond Frey cut Catelyn's throat. Outside, Black Walder and the Frey host fell upon the northern camp, while Greywind was killed in his kennel. Robb's body was mutilated, his direwolf's head was sewn onto it, and his crown became a trophy. Tywin Lannister had helped arrange the betrayal, but the Freys carried it out in their own home. That distinction matters. Armies had already killed tens of thousands during the War of the Five Kings. What made the Red Wedding uniquely poisonous was the promise that came before the killing. Every noble in Westeros depends on the idea that enemies can enter a hall, negotiate, attend a marriage, and leave alive. Walder Frey turned that protection into bait. He won the night, but he made his name synonymous with a crime the entire realm believes the gods themselves must punish. Hello everyone, and welcome to Storyteller's Codex. Here we delve deep into the rich lore of the Lord of the Rings, a song of ice and fire, and the vast worlds beyond. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Guest right is much older than the Iron Throne. Once a guest eats beneath a host's roof, neither side may harm the other for the duration of the visit. Bread and salt are the traditional symbols, but they are not a magical loophole. The host has publicly taken responsibility for the guest, and a guest gift usually marks the moment that protection ends. This custom is especially sacred in the north. One maester says only kinslaying is judged as severely. Old Nan explains the lesson through the rat cook, who murdered a prince beneath his roof and baked him into a pie. The horror was not simply murder or cannibalism, as she puts it, but he slew a guest beneath his roof, and that the gods cannot forgive. That is why the consequences begin immediately. Even Frey allies avoid defending what happened. The small folk call the family cursed, and sparrows rage over the violation. Tywin understands that a kingdom cannot function if every feast becomes a battlefield. Guest right is both religion and infrastructure. Break it once and negotiations become traps, marriages become military risks, and surrender becomes almost impossible. The Freys gained Riverrun and royal favour but poisoned the customs that make those rewards usable. Their punishment begins with that loss of trust. Catelyn's story should have ended in the river. The Freys threw her body into the Green Fork where it remained for 3 days until Arya's direwolf Nymeria dragged it onto the bank. Beric Dondarrion could not revive a body dead so long in the usual way, so he gave Catelyn the last kiss of Rella and surrendered his own remaining life. What rose was not the woman who had advised Robb. Catelyn's wounds remained, she could barely speak, and everything gentle in her had been burned down to memory and vengeance. The Brotherhood began calling her Lady Stoneheart, the Silent Sister, or Mother Merciless. She wears Robb's stolen crown and searches the Riverlands for anyone connected to the Freys, Boltons, or Lannisters. Her leadership also changes the Brotherhood itself. Beric's band had tried to defend common people from every army. Under Stoneheart, judgment becomes collective and mercy almost disappears. Thoros of Myr, the priest who once restored Beric, admits that the outlaws have fallen far from their original purpose. Stoneheart is not planning justice through a court. She is building an underground war around witnesses, informants, and sudden executions. The Freys believe the war is over because they hold castles. Stoneheart knows the Riverlands are full of roads, ferries, singers, and villagers who remember. The revenge has already started and the victims are not random. Peter Pimple is captured near Oldstones and hanged. Merritt Frey arrives with ransom money, only to discover a hooded Catelyn waiting beneath the trees. Merritt insists he killed no one at the Red Wedding. That is true, but he kept the Great John Umber drunk so the dangerous northern fighter could be restrained. The Brotherhood treats participation as guilt. Raymond Frey commanded forces at Riverrun, murdered Daisy Mormont during the wedding, and paraded Robb's crown on a camp follower. Jaime dismisses him in disgust. Near Fairmarket, Raymond, 3 knights, and a dozen men-at-arms are captured and hanged. By then, the stolen crown has returned to Stoneheart. The pattern is clear. The The Brotherhood has names, witnesses, and intelligence. Tom of Sevenstreams had been inside Ryman's camp, and the companion history identifies him as the source of the outlaws' information. Stoneheart removes guilty Freys when they leave an army's protection, but the executions also reveal her danger. Merritt's guilt is real, yet Stoneheart does not distinguish between degrees of responsibility. Later, she is prepared to hang Podrick Payne, a child with no role in the massacre. The noose is becoming her answer to evidence, suspicion, and association alike. The television series turns Frey revenge into one spectacular area scene. She kills Walder, assumes his face, gathers the male participants, poisons them, and leaves the women alive. It is clean and emotionally satisfying. The books choose something more dangerous. Vengeance spreads through groups that do not control one another. In the north, Wyman Manderley gives guest gifts to Rhaegar, Symond, and Jared Frey before they leave White Harbour. Their protection formally ends, the men disappear, and Wyman later serves enormous meat pies at Ramsay Bolton's wedding, while requesting a song about the rat cook. The Frey pies remain an extremely strong implication, not a confirmed fact. Meanwhile, House Frey is beginning to consume itself. Walder is over 90. His direct heir Ryman is dead. Ryman's son Edwin believes his brother Black Walder wants him dead, and Black Walder has every reason to move upward through a succession crowded with rival branches. Each execution therefore does more than remove one culprit. It changes who inherits the twins and encourages the survivors to accuse one another. The book version is Stoneheart, Northern Loyalists, River Lords, and the Freys themselves tightening different knots. A second Red Wedding would be the moment those punishments converge, not the beginning of revenge. The most likely stage is not the twins, but Riverrun. After the Red Wedding, the Crown grants the Tully Castle to Aemon Frey, but Brynden the Blackfish refuses to surrender. Frey and Lannister armies surround it, while Edmure remains their prisoner. Daven commands the Westerners, Reman brings thousands of Freys, and the siege stalls because Riverrun stands between two rivers. Jaime arrives to finish the war without a battle. He removes Ryman from command, speaks privately with Edmure, and threatens a level of violence so extreme that Edmure finally agrees to yield. The castle opens, the garrison is allowed to depart, and Aemon and Jenna Free take possession with roughly 200 men. But Jaime's victory creates Stoneheart's opportunity. Edmure helps the Blackfish escape through Riverrun's Watergate. The castle changes hands undamaged, leaving its hidden roots intact. Its new Frey rulers are surrounded by riverlords and smallfolk who despise them. Most importantly, Daven remains at Riverrun after the siege. He is still bound by Tywin's agreement with Walder Frey to marry a Frey woman. That unfinished marriage contract brings a Lannister commander, Frey guests, a captured Tully stronghold, and the memory of the first wedding into the same location. George has assembled the pieces before announcing the event. One piece is already inside the walls. Tom of Sevenstreams looks like a wandering singer, but he is one of the Brotherhood's oldest members. During the siege he performs in Ryman's camp and watches the officers. After Riverrun surrenders, Tom remains as castle singer. Jenna accepts him because music makes the occupation feel normal. For Stoneheart, this is almost perfect. Tom can count guards, hear which Freys are expected, and discover when Daven's wedding will occur. The Blackfish's escape also proves someone familiar with Riverrun can bypass the main gate. Tom has another grim qualification. Years earlier, he performed at a Frey wedding and knows the Rains of Castamere. The same kind of harmless musician who helped conceal the first massacre is now positioned to expose or reverse the second. This does not prove Tom will open a gate during a feast. But his placement is too specific to dismiss. A Brotherhood operative embeds himself with the new Frey rulers at the castle, where an unresolved Frey marriage is waiting. Riverrun is already compromised. The next piece is Jaime Lannister. Brienne, Podrick Payne, and Hyle Hunt are taken before Stoneheart. Brienne carries Oathkeeper, a Lannister horse, and Jaime's written authority. To Stoneheart, that looks like betrayal. Worse, Rose murdered Robb after saying Jaime sent his regards, although Jaime never approved the Red Wedding. Stoneheart gives Brienne a choice: prove her loyalty by killing Jaime or hang with her companions. Brienne refuses, the ropes are raised, and when she sees Podrick choking she cries out a single word, understood to be sword. The next time we see her, she reaches Jaime's camp at Pennytree and claims she has found Sansa, but that Jaime must come alone or the Hound will kill her. Jaime follows and disappears for weeks. That is their last confirmed position in the published timeline. Brienne is almost certainly bringing him to Stoneheart, but the meeting remains unwritten. Jaime could be executed immediately, yet he is far more useful alive. His face, golden hand, seal and command can move men through Lannister lines. He is Jenna's beloved nephew and Daven's cousin. As a hostage, he could force cooperation. As a prisoner hidden in a party of familiar soldiers, he could get the Brotherhood close to Riverrun. Stoneheart does not need Jaime to join her. She needs the doors that still open when guards see him. Now we reach the event prepared but not yet shown. Tywin's agreement with Walder promised Frey marriages for Lancel and Daven. Lancel's marriage collapses when he abandons his lordship for the faith, but Daven's obligation remains. At Riverrun, he jokes that he will marry his stoat, knowing what happened when Robb rejected a Frey match. 3 facts are confirmed. Daven must marry a Frey, he remains at Riverrun, and Tom is already inside Riverrun. The bride, date, and venue are not confirmed. Walder Frey's attendance is not confirmed either. That uncertainty matters, because a second Red Wedding does not require the entire family to assemble at the Twins. Riverrun is the more meaningful target. Catelyn's childhood home, stolen as payment for her murder. Aemon calls himself its lord. The Blackfish remains free, and Tully men are scattered nearby. A wedding would lower attention while concentrating commanders, guards, and relatives in one hall. The likely plan has layers. Tom supplies the timing, Brienne delivers Jaime or access connected to him. Fighters enter in disguise or through the Watergate. The Blackfish or River Lords exploit the confusion. The precise order is unknown, but every thread points to Riverrun. So, will there be a second Red Wedding? The evidence strongly suggests a wedding massacre or uprising at Riverrun, but not a perfect replay of the Twins. Stoneheart is bringing the war home to people who believe the first massacre had purchased peace. The likely sequence is simple. Daven's marriage concentrates Frey and Lannister leadership. Tom warns the Brotherhood. Brienne gives Stoneheart a hostage or a way past Lannister guards. The Blackfish's escape establishes an entry route. Once the feast begins, Stoneheart appears with Robb's crown. The deepest question is whether Stoneheart repeats the original sin. If the Brotherhood accepts hospitality and kills protected guests, the Avengers become guest right breakers. If they attack occupiers, infiltrate as servants, or strike after protection ends, the meaning changes. That distinction decides whether this is justice, war, or another curse. The result could be enormous without exterminating House Frey. Aemon's rule could collapse, Riverrun could return to Tully hands, and deaths could turn Edwin and Black Walder's succession dispute into civil war. Stoneheart remains important in the unfinished story. The first Red Wedding happened in one night. Its second version has been happening ever since. One Noose, one missing Frey, and one broken alliance at a time. Daven's wedding is where those consequences are most likely to gather in the same room. If you're interested in The Lord of the Rings or A Song of Ice and Fire, click one of the links on the screen to dive deeper into the lore. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you next time.